Can we go?
Yes.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ian White, and I'm Chair of the Governance and Audit Committee. And I'd like to welcome you all to the meeting today, which is a multi-location meeting. It will be live streamed and recorded and will be available for viewing after the meeting. If the live stream fails, the meeting will continue and a recording will be available through the Council's website. I'd like to remind members that translation facilities are available, and if you want to make use of the facility, please select the English language option on the microphone delegate unit if you're in the chamber. And for those attending remotely, please click on your audio settings tab and select English. For those wishing to speak in the chamber, please indicate by raising your hand and turn on your microphone when it's your turn to speak. In order for those online to be able to hear the translation at all times, for those remote attendees wishing to speak, please use the yellow hand function. And when I call your name to speak, please press the push to speak button. And also, if you have a point of order, just press the push to speak button. Committee members will be allowed to have their say first, and relevant cabinet members will be brought in as and when appropriate, with non-committee members then being given the opportunity to speak. And in order to maintain your place in the speaker queue, when asking a question, please leave your microphone on until you've received a response and asked any supplementary questions. It would be helpful if members could ask all their questions in one go. Whilst I do not wish to stifle debate, can I remind members that any questions should be focused on the subject matter and to avoid repetition. For those attending remotely, please note that we in the chamber will be unable to use the chat facility. But remote attendees, if you do need to leave the meeting temporarily, please pop a message in the chat function. And finally, I do expect that everyone present and participating will conduct themselves appropriately and be respectful to each other. And that applies to members, officers, and members of the press or public attending. So that said, I think we can now move on to the agenda and item number 1, which is apologies for absence. Sally, please.
Yeah, apologies for absence have been received from councillors Liz Roberts, Gareth Jones, and also Yola McGregor, the Strategy, Performance and Engagement Manager.
Thank you, Sally. Item number 2, declarations of interest, Code of Local Government Conduct. So, Nigel?
I can't hear him.
Nigel, I think you're on mute. Oh.
Nigel, if you try your audio settings, make sure the volumes are adjusted, or general settings to make sure that you're connected to the right speaker or the right microphone. I'm pretty sure that he's advising that he's a member.
Chair, are you picking me up?
Oh, we can hear you now, Nigel.
Okay, apologies for that. Just to say the usual declaration in respect to being a member of Denbighshire GAC for the last time as I stepped down from that organisation in May, Chair, and also whether it's necessary to refer to a membership of the CJC at this point as well, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, I did that.
It's not necessary. That's for transparency. That's fine.
I'm taking advice from Kerry, and she says that is not necessary with regard to the CJC.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 3 on the agenda are urgent matters. As far as I'm aware, there are none. But we do have an important matter, Seanad, which I think we'll take the opportunity to...
Yes, thank you, Chair. Bore da. The committee is asked to note the appointment of Claire Mitchell as Audit Manager. Claire has over 20 years audit experience as a qualified IT auditor and demonstrated exceptional performance during a recent secondment. I have every confidence that the team will be well managed going forward with a forward-thinking approach that will continue to strengthen the service. Thank you.
Thank you, Seanad, and congratulations, Claire. Welcome. That said, we can now move on to item 4, which is the minutes, and you're asked, please, to approve, or we are asked to approve and sign as correct the minutes of our previous meeting, which is pages 3 to 10 of the pack. Yeah. So, Councillor Michael, thank you. You're proposing it. Philip, you're seconding. And by a show of hands, can we just confirm the minutes are accurate? Yeah, I think that's unanimous. Yeah, thank you very much. And now item 5, which is to review the Governance and Audit Committee Forward Work Programme, which is pages 11 to 17. Does anyone have any comments or input? Nigel.
Thank you, Chair. It's in relation to the June agenda, and item on there headed Panel Performance Assessment Report. And you'll see from the contribution there, we're due to consider 29th of June, and then it goes to FROSC and Cabinet and Council. I just want to clarify the panel performance review was undertaken in December, just gone. Where is the report currently from the panel performance review? And then I'll come back with the reason why I'm asking this in a moment, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Nigel. Do you know about it?
Fran wants to go.
Oh, okay, Fran, you go.
Good morning, Fran.
Bore da pawb. Apologies, I'm not in the chamber, just logistics today. Couldn't make it into the office. Good question, Nigel. Basically, the PPA report has been finalised, and we are now working on the action plan. So that's currently in discussion with senior management team and also cabinet. The reason why it's not come through yet is obviously we are now in the election period, and therefore there has been a pause on it until we're through the election period before bringing it back through the relevant democratic committees. And that was always part of the timeline of the PPA that Yolo presented right in the beginning.
Yeah, Chair, may I come back?
Yes, Nigel. Thank you, Fran.
Yeah, thank you, Fran, for that. And I thought that was probably partly what was going on here. The reason I raise this is Fran, if you look at the wording of the June report, it says to receive the final PPA report with the management response. Now, you'll know as well as I from the statutory requirements that a draft of this document needs to be considered by the GAC at a point whereby it can comment on the intended management action plan by the authority before it proceeds to a final PPA report. So there's a little loop that occurs democratically in order for the PPA draft to be considered. Because the expectation is if, for example, Cabinet or Council disagree with a recommendation from the GAC about the action plan or similar, it needs to state reasons why it does not wish to follow the GAC recommendation. Now, that whole process normally shouldn't be an issue, but in democratic terms, I think there needs to be a loop in the democratic calendar that allows that to happen, notwithstanding that we're in a pre-election period. So I'd be looking there to potentially seeing on the work programme for GAC a draft coming in at X date and then the final report coming in at Y date. Does that make sense to you, Fran, through you, Chair?
It does, and certainly the action plan will be a draft. My understanding was in terms of the actual, and I'll have to pull up the timeline. I haven't got it in front of me right now, Nigel, but in terms of the timeline, we had only a set number of weeks to sign off on the draft actual reports. Where the input will be in terms of the action plan, which is very much still in a draft form and will be brought through to democracy. But that wasn't my understanding around the actual PPA report.
Yeah, through you, Chair, again, it is the action plan, the intended response from the authority that I was particularly expecting to see coming through in draft form. I'm sure there's an answer to this. I'm just, in terms of, therefore, timing and what appears on the GAC work programme, it needs to follow some degree of logic there. Otherwise, you end up with potentially a PPA final report coming in that bounces GAC, and there isn't ability to deal with it as that draft form. That's my concern, Fran.
You will receive a draft action plan. We're still working on it.
Can I just confirm, Fran, it will be the draft action plan we will see in June?
Yes. So just to clarify, the actual PPA report, we have received the final version of it, and that was clear in the timeline that Yola presented. We are now working on the management response in terms of a draft action plan. And that draft will come through democracy in order for all elected members, as Nigel has quite rightly said as a lay member, to be able to influence that draft action plan. But we can't do that until we're through the election period.
Okay, thank you. Amanda, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I was. Thank you. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, hang on, Amanda, it's not coming on.
Yeah, there we are. Yeah, sorry. Just to apologies, Fran, if I'm just reiterating what you've just said. So, but yes. So essentially, obviously, the PPA's final report is for the PPA panel to issue. So essentially, to the extent we have had comments on their draft, it was purely on factual accuracy and nothing else. It's their report, and therefore they've issued it to us now. Having checked it of accuracy, they've issued that to us as a final report. So as Fran says, we're currently working on the draft response to that, and that then will come through the democratic process through governance and audit, FROSC, and then on to cabinet to approve that response. So maybe it was just a vocabulary semantics type point. That's the mistake has been made on, but essentially, yeah, you will get opportunity as other members in other committees to comment on our draft response to the plan. Cheers.
Thank you, Amanda. Councillor Cheryl, good morning.
Good morning, Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I think we can all hear you.
Lovely. Thank you very much for letting me speak. Just to say thank you to Nigel for that. We in Frosk have been obviously rather hamstrung by the pre-election period, but could I just ask Fran that she updates us for the Frosk Forward Work Programme and the chairs and vice chairs, so we know when this important report is coming to us. So diolch everyone.
Oh, Fran, you're on mute. Still on mute.
Need to press your push to speak, Fran. The big button at the bottom of the screen. It's like a face with lines coming out. Yeah.
Sorry, it's Monday. It's Monday. Apologies. Yes, I have now got hold of the timeline. Apologies, committee. I wasn't expecting to go through this in detail, so I didn't have it to hand, but I do now. So in terms of post-election period, so Governance and Audit Committee to consider the panel performance assessment report and give input to the draft management response on June the 29th. Then Frosk received the final panel performance assessment report and management response on July the 6th, with hopefully it going to Cabinet on July the 7th and Council on July the 9th, if all goes to plan. So hopefully that provides some clarity to the committee.
Thank you, Fran. I think, Nigel, it's certainly a good question, and it's good we've been able to clarify that. I think perhaps the issue is just the wording on the work programme itself to receive the final performance assessment report. And now knowing the timeline, it's much clearer, I think. Are you okay with that, Nigel? You're on mute again.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, officers, for clarifying that. Can I just ask Amanda and Fran, if, for example, the GAC has a comment on the draft action plan at its meeting on the 29th of June, and we want X to be undertaken, and it gets to Cabinet, and Cabinet's like, no, on your bike, GAC, we're not interested in that. How does that come back to GAC? Because it's supposed to be reported back, as I understand it, in this process. And it is a learning process for all of us as we go through these first PPAs. But how is that reported back to GAC, and when would it be reported back to GAC, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Another good question. Obviously, this isn't an audit report as such. However, it's of significance, isn't it? The panel performance assessment. So naturally, our next steps will be to ensure that once approved, and that's ultimately, a council approval, we will of course be closely monitoring the implementation of the action plan. What we do need to do in terms of further discussion is decide how that happens. We're taking this opportunity to bring together a number of different action plans. So there's the PPA action plan, there's action plan as a result of the stakeholder survey, as a result of the budget survey, and also as a result of our staff survey. So that's really rich intelligence for the authority that we want to bring together that will help inform the work we're doing this summer on a new corporate plan. So once we have all those action plans together, they will be reported on in terms of progress. Just where we do that and in what format still needs to be talked through, because my preference would be that we don't have lots of action plans dotted all over the place. We take the opportunity to bring them all together and inform the corporate plan and the new strategic direction for the authority. So that's still a working brief. But in terms of governance and audit, then yes, obviously progress on the recommendations will need to come back to you for your assurance that work is happening.
Thank you, Fran. Are you okay with that, Nigel?
Chair, I wouldn't want to delay the agenda any further. I think I'll raise this matter outside of committee.
You had a follow-up question, though, did you not?
In relation to this matter, I'm happy with these matters at the moment, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Nigel. Thank you. Are there any more comments on or input on the work programme? I personally have one more suggestion. My recollection is that at the last meeting we had an update on the CJC, the Corporate Joint Committee, and I do know that Nigel would actually like to give us a brief update during this meeting, and I just wondered whether we should add on the work programme the CJC updates as an item, rather than us having to sort of play catch up.
Can I suggest we take advice on that? Either the CJC is a separate body that has its own governance and audit committee. That's not this governance and audit committee.
I understand that, yes. But I should. Oh, okay.
So I guess I understand the point you're making, and I understand the points Nigel raised last time, and certainly I fed those back through the chief executive and monitoring officer. But I think I'd like to, rather than bounce Kerry and I into something here, I think I'd rather go away and take advice around the appropriateness of this audit committee, considering the work of the audit committee of the joint committee. So I think we need to take advice on that before we start putting it onto this agenda.
Okay. Right, but we will need to find, or are you saying that may well be it's doesn't come in our
essentially the CJC is an independent body that has its own governance arrangements and governance and audit committee, so it's not our business.
Okay. Nigel, do you since you represent us there, along with Councillor Gareth and Councillor Paul as a deputy?
Yeah, through you, Chair. I think and I'm happy for officers to go away and consider how best to do this. I think that the point that I'm sure we share is that tracking developments in the CJC that are relevant to the authority, we just need to be clear on how that's best undertaken and at what point it's undertaken. The only other comment I'd put back is that following the debate of the last meeting here, that officers have gone away at the CJC and reviewed the core arrangements for CJC and made some progress on that, and I'm grateful and thankful to members and officers for their help in that regard, Chair. But yes, a discussion again with advice from officers outside the meeting, probably the best way forward, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Nigel, and thank you for keeping me on the straight and narrow, Commander and Kerry. Councillor Goronwy. Oh, you're on mute, Councillor.
Oh, thank you, and thank you to Amanda for clarifying the position as far as the CJC. I personally, having been councillor for many years, am concerned about the feedback from CJC on significant decisions to affect Point Town Council. I know Amanda says they have got their own governance and audit procedures. But when it comes to taking decisions, the feedback, I personally feel, is insufficient to keep the county informed, whether that's down to our representative on the CJC or down to the process. But it does cause me concern that, you know, we seem to be passengers rather than participants in the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gormley. Unfortunately, we didn't quite catch some of that. Apologies. I think in general, I think what you were saying in broad terms was that you were concerned about the authority as a whole's knowledge of what was going on in the CJC, etc. So again, I'll take that back, and we can pick up. I can pick up effectively and get an understanding for this committee what the feedback loop is in terms of how does the authority keep abreast of what's happening in the CJC, and obviously to the extent you've got concerns how that feeds back. So I don't know off the top of my head. So if you leave that with me, I'll find out, and we can come back to update the committee next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Gronway, and thank you, Amanda. No more questions or comments? No. In which case, please can I ask for a proposer in support of the Forward Work Programme? Councillor Michael, thank you. And do we have a seconder? Councillor Philip. And finally, can we have a show of hands in support of the work programme? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Okay. Item 6 on our agenda is to consider reports by the Head of Audit and Procurement on the internal audit strategy and annual plan for 2026-27, which was pages 18 to 35 of your pack. And I think, Claire, are you taking this item? Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. The internal audit strategy and 2026-27 annual plan supports Conway's strategic objectives and sets out how the service will be delivered and developed. It includes internal audit's vision, objectives, resources, and informs the development of the risk-based annual plan. The strategy and plan have been prepared in accordance with the global internal audit standards in the UK public sector and reflect the Council's statutory requirement to maintain an adequate and effective internal audit function. Appendix A sets out the 3-year strategy, and Appendix B sets out the risk-based annual plan for 2026-27. The committee is asked to approve the internal audit strategy and annual plan for 2026-27. Sinead and I are happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Claire. Does anyone have any questions? Or Philip?
Oh, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask is, you've set out that you've got a focus on resilience within the plan, but I wondered, other than that, are there any? It doesn't look like there's any great major changes, even though you've gone to this new GIAS. So, is it broadly similar, or is it very different, really?
The global internal audit standards, the main change is the ethics section, isn't it? Yeah, right. So that's the only change really, but otherwise the standards are a similar reflection to the old public sector internal audit standards.
Okay, can I ask another? Sorry. The other thing was, congratulations to Claire on a new position, but does that mean you've still got two positions to recruit to, and do you think you'll meet your target of August, because the plan assumes that you will?
Yeah, we've currently got an audit position which has been vacant since June, and now the senior auditor position is also vacant. Claire and I have got a meeting planned for this week to start the recruitment process for the senior auditor, and then we look at the auditor position.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
David, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. You hear me?
Yes?
Yeah. I noticed we engaged Salford for some of the IT work. I noticed we also got an IT member of staff within the section. Will they be shadowing Salford and picking up tips and hints, or is it just one-off exercises?
Thank you, David. No, they won't. We won't be shadowing Salford. They are one-off exercises. As it's myself who's the IT auditor, obviously I'll be concentrating on the management side.
Okay, thanks. Is that the intention going forward then? Obviously, you've got a different role now then. So will this be an ongoing sort of use of consultants for IT work, I guess?
From my perspective, no. Once I'm comfortable in the role, then I will go back to doing the IT audits, and we will also build resilience in the team, and hopefully get somebody else trained.
Okay, thanks.
Does anyone have... Oh, Nigel?
Thank you, Chair. Congratulations on your appointment, Blair. Can I look at a particular way of looking at these documents? And members will be aware of my distress that every year we have to review a charter on an annual basis. I'm pleased that we're moving to a situation now where we almost report by exception on it, and given the GIS changes, understandably so this year. What I want to look at is the strategy and the plan. Now, the document currently is an annual strategy, but the opening on the report at 3.1, for example, talks about a 3-year vision for internal audit from April 26 to March 29. I would have thought that you'd want to run a 3-year strategy as the context within which the annual plan is considered, because it doesn't come through on the document that's the framework within which you're working. The strategy talks about the annual plan and revolves around an annual perspective. And I raise that on the basis that we have tried in the GAC to get towards a medium-term focus. And I think that here on internal audit, looking forward, is a great opportunity to reflect and pick up a stronger medium-term aspiration rather than the annual focus. So I wondered if you had some thought on that, or whether there was an expectation that would be developed over time, is my first question. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nigel. Yeah, the anticipation being over the next 12 months, I'm going to review all 3 of the documents, and you know, want to be forward thinking, and more medium term.
Through you, Chair, I would certainly welcome that, and I think that is the way to go, and then therefore it makes more sense in terms of tying it into the corporate strategy and the perspectives of the council, and developing the rolling work programmes for the various areas of activity across the council. So the sooner you can get there, Claire, the better from my perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel.
No. Councillor Stephen.
Yeah, can I propose that we approve the internal audit strategy and annual plan for 2026-27? Thank you.
You can, after I ask one question, if you don't mind. I would just like to seek some comfort and assurance that with at least the temporarily reduced number of audit days that you have, that we're still going to be in a position to be happy that there will be adequate assurance around all of the controls in the council from the audit plan that's being presented, because the number of audits are reduced by about 10 or 12.
No, the audit plan has been worked on our audit resource based on appointing somebody by August. Hopefully we'll get somebody in place before then, prior to then. We've been prudent, so hopefully we will be in a position to provide assurance to the GAC next April, June,
Okay.
with our annual report. Thank you.
Okay, back to you, Councillor Stephen.
Yeah, as I previously stated, I'd like to propose that we approve the the internal audit strategy and the annual plan for 2026-27. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Stephen. And do we have a seconder, please? Philip, thank you very much. And now we're going to vote electronically on this agenda item. So please, can we open the vote, please? Yeah, must be. Okay, thank you very much. That's unanimous. So thank you, Claire and Sinead. Now, item number, well, it's actually the second item, which is the internal audit charter 26-27. Claire, this is your item as well, please.
Thank you. The Charter is a key governance document and supports the Council's internal audit arrangements in line with statutory requirements and the global internal audit standards in the UK public sector. The Charter defines internal audit's purpose, mandate, authority and responsibilities, including independence and the approach to planning, reporting, arrangements and quality assurance. Some minor changes have been made to the Charter since its approval in 2025-2026, specifically Section 1, which now includes the purpose and role of internal audit as detailed in the standards. Section 5 covers the introduction of SIPFA's skills and competency framework, and Section 6 details how senior management are expected to support the effectiveness of internal audit. The committee is asked to approve the Internal Audit Charter for 2026-2027. Sinead and I are happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Claire. Do any members have any questions or input, or are you happy with the charter? Councillor Michael.
I'm happy to propose.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Stephen. Thank you. And again, we need to vote electronically on this item, please. So can we open the vote, please? Yeah. Thank you very much. That's unanimous again. So thank you, Claire and Sinead. And now moving on to the final item on our agenda, which is item 7, to consider a report by the Head of People and Performance on the annual governance statement for 25 to 26, which were pages 55 to 124. And thank you, Fran. I think you're taking this item.
Thank you, Chair. Yes. I firstly want to thank Yolo for his hard work on this. As you know, I'm stepping in for Yolo. He is having a well-earned break. So I'll take this forward, but wanted to acknowledge the hard work that he has put into writing the annual governance statement. So, as members are aware, the AGS is an annual statement that must come before Governance and Audit Committee, both in terms of draft for you to add your contribution to, and then comes again for final sign-off as part of the statement of accounts. In terms of this year's statement, it includes a stronger emphasis on financial resilience and reflecting the revised corporate plan priorities and also our resilience strategy and the response we have in terms of our ongoing financial pressures. It has had the appropriate input from both internal and external assurance and has been refreshed to reflect the head of audits, audit opinion, and also the audits that we've received from Audit Wales and any relevant follow-up activity. You will note that some dates are noted as to be confirmed where final committee reporting or publication timings are pending. The AGS this year has also been updated in light of the latest SIPFA guidance, which was the 2025 addendum. This guidance particularly encourages wide-ranging inputs by key officers and senior leaders, which I'm pleased to say has always been part of our process, so no real change for us there. So it has had broad input both from improvement and audit groups, senior management team and cabinet, and procurement governance has been updated to reflect the Procurement Act and revised rules. In terms of the sources of assurance, they've been updated again to show how performance management, risk management, audit and scrutiny, and most importantly, engagement have been included within our insurance. And we have, as discussed earlier, also included a reflection on the panel performance assessment. So the AGS this year recognises the strengths identified by the panel and acknowledges the recommendations, and as we discussed, the action plan that needs to come forward. And that will be monitored again, as we discussed, going forward as well. In particular, there's greater emphasis placed on community, stakeholder and staff engagement. And as I said before, there's a whole rich intelligence that we will be bringing together, including the county conversation and our staff survey evidence. So the overall conclusion is that the AGS confirms that the governance arrangements remain fit for purpose. So I'll open it up for any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Fran. Are there any questions? Philip?
Thank you, Chair. On page 81, there's a reference to managed decline. Now, I don't recollect seeing any committee reports at all that cover this issue, and I just wonder whether what we've done to sort of bring that forward, or because as I say, I've not seen anything that suggests we're doing that.
I haven't got any specifics in front of me to give you an example, but I think it's fairly evident that as we put forward savings, particularly budgetary savings, that can be part of our managed decline, where we have decided either to cease doing something or take slightly longer to do something. I haven't got a particular example in front of me, Phil, but that's what that means. It's where we've made budget efficiencies or cuts, but I'd have to come back to you with a specific example.
Yeah, it's just that nobody's told the public. I mean, I've read the council tax information, and there's nothing in that. So how are people supposed to know that you're not doing something anymore?
I wouldn't agree that we don't tell the public. We have regular engagement through the stakeholder survey and through the budget survey, and also through our self-assessment report that provides the public with an overview of our performance, where we're doing well, where we do our own self-assessment to acknowledge that we need to improve. And obviously part of our consultation work is involving the public in key decisions of council policy and where we want to change things. But I would have to come back to you with specific examples, Phil. I don't have them to hand.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Philip. Are there any more questions or remarks? Nigel.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm mindful that Yolo is not in attendance, as I'm sure he'd be able to knock off the answers to 2 or 3 of the questions I've got in here, Fran, even if you can't today. Again, this is a report where I think it's a very high standard report, and what we try to do is to see if we can get the report to being best of class rather than just excellent. So the questions I have are about trying to achieve that. Page 79 of the report talks about the work programme, and the paragraph starting in October 25, council appointed a new leader. Halfway through that document, it talks about council regarding the budget, advise the council in relation to its plans, and publish a 4-month forward work programme. My issue is the 4-month forward work programme that, having regard to my comments earlier this morning, that we are trying to move in a more medium-term focus rather than immediate focus. When you look at, for example, SPRs doing 12-month rolling work programmes and similar at GAC and stuff, I wonder if the limitation of a 4-month work programme is unhelpful to the council. And if you work on the basis that a cycle of the council, and you get 4 or 5 depending on the electoral period, rotating around budget setting and similar, you can develop an annual rolling programme that's updated on a continuous basis. And I think there's an opportunity there for the council to review whether the 4 months is adequate in that circumstance. It's clearly up to the members to determine it, but I just reflect back that it's inconsistent with looking at horizon scanning that I would normally anticipate of a local authority. That's the first point. The second point I pick up is on page 96. If we go down to page 96, which I'm trying to find also at my own, and I think it's section A2. And it's about lay member development forums and similar. That I think in terms of the development of members, there is good coverage in this document about the enhancement and the diaring and the clocking of how member development is undertaken. I think there's a gap there in terms of what we do as an authority in terms of addressing co-opted members or lay members as part of an expectation of development. And I think that area needs attention. And if we are doing, it's not particularly well captured in this document. If it's an area for development or future improvement, then it needs to be flagged as such. It comes up again on page 102 when we're talking under section E2 on page 102 about the Member Development Forum. Similarly, there is an opportunity, I think, or a gap there to look at how co-opted and lay members might usefully benefit from that development process as well. and I think it's one that can be easily missed because the focus would tend to be on elected councillors in relation to this matter, and I think more can be done in terms of picking up the expectation of what we want from our lay members, what the expectation is of our lay members or our co-opted members on other committees, and how best we can ensure that they deliver to a level that the local authority wants. Page 112, just a wordsmithing issue on this for Yolo. If you look back at documents and the ordering of documents, I think in particular, when we get down to the listing of documents under 312, 313, 39, 310, 311, there is in the order of documentation a seniority that Yolo has adopted, where you got comments about the chief executive, the comments about chief financial officer, the monitoring officer. I think 312 and 313 are in the wrong order. If you follow the logic of seniority through, then in my view, SMT ought to precede SLT, so 312 and 313 need to be reversed in order to be consistent.
SLT is more senior than SMT.
Is it?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay,
Yes.
I stand corrected. That was my reading of that one there. And then on the partnerships and the documentation that's set out on Appendix 3, I went through the various boards that show what is done by which body, and I thought I could get 90% of them in terms of my reading and understanding of what they were about. There were a couple of areas in particular where I think if there is in brackets a very brief sort of definition of the terms of reference on one or two for clarification, that might help. And I was thinking in particular of the Northwest Regional Partnership Board, or the leadership group, or the contest boards, or the local action group, where although I might have a guess, I really didn't know what they meant. And if I'm a third party or a member of the public trying to read this, I would struggle to understand what those are about. So if you live and breathe contest boards or similar, you might well understand them. But if you don't live and breathe contest boards, for example, you will struggle potentially. The final comments I've got on Appendix 3 on the landscape version of Appendix 3 was the use of colour coding. That I tried to match the colour coding back, and it didn't seem to be 100% clear how those would be, in particular the dark brown areas, and I just wonder whether a slightly different approach to that might make them clearer and stand out in the page one. I enjoy the pictorial and the landscape pictorial, very busy as it is, but I think a couple of tweaks there to make it more digestible might again improve it. Those are the sort of comments going through. They're a bit sort of nitpicky, but they are intended to try and get and reflect what I think is really, really good work led by Yolo on this, and they're just essentially to try and get us to the best in class rather than just be settled as excellent. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nigel. And we'll have all of those points minuted, Nigel, and I imagine Yolo can follow them up on his return from leave.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Nigel. I will, of course, be briefing Yolo when he's back from his annual leave. The first two comments, I think, need to go to the head of Democratic Services, but certainly the comments within the AGS, I'll feed back to him to amend.
Okay, thank you, Fran. Thank you again, Nigel. No more questions. We're being asked to provide feedback on the content, which I think we've done, and the local code of governance and the framework. And we've suggested some amendments. So on that basis, and once YOLO has followed up, I imagine the report can go to Cabinet, and I think that's due sometime in May, isn't it? 12th of May. So there should be plenty of time to sort things out. So again, unless there are any more questions, can I please ask for a proposer in support of Councillor Stephen? Thank you. And a seconder, please. Councillor Michael, thank you. And this is an electronic vote again, so please can we open the vote? And looking for greens. Yep, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. So subject to those minuted items, we can recommend the draft report to Cabinet for approval in May. So thank you very much, everyone. It's been a shorter than normal meeting. We'll probably go to the other extreme at the end of June, but that's another matter. So thank you all very much, and enjoy the rest of the week, actually, and the beautiful weather that we're forecast to have. So thank you.